I must have had an interview, or they decided from Spotlight I was right for it. But I can remember the week clearly of doing it.
Yeah.
You had a whole week on it. And it was very interesting because when you, normally in television shows in those days anyway, when you weren't doing anything, everybody'd sit and read the Daily Telegraph and do the crossword. But because all the characters were so inventive, you daren't do that. You followed them round from set to set in the rehearsal room because they were so inventive. And Jimmy Perry and David Croft loved that. They liked the actors to think of things to say. I remember Arthur Lowe had to say something about Bognor Regis, and he said that rather pompously because it got the name Regis in it. Oh no, it wasn't like that. It was called just said Bognor, and he put Regis in to make it sound posh. Yeah, that's right. I remember that. And John Le Mesurier, however you pronounce his name, he always came to life if he had an audience. In rehearsal room, he was quite, dull and dreary. But the moment he had an audience, he'd come to life. And they had the technicians, the cameramen would come in to have a look at the show before it went into the studio. He'd give a performance. He'd liven up. And then when they'd gone, back he'd go down again. He had to have an audience. And but they were very, very nice people, very nice people. But it was a very funny sketch that had to do with Christmas Night with the Stars, because what they were doing was playing charades, and they were showing how Britain avoided being conquered through the ages. So Arthur Lowe was John Bull, and Clive Dunn was a rustic, soul of the earth, rustic type. Then one of them was Philip of Spain, John Le Mesurier, what was he, Napoleon or something. And the joke was that an air raid siren goes, and I came on as a real German. But they kept having a little refrain through this sketch. They don't like it up them, sir, when they were beaten. And of course, Clive Dunn had the pitchfork and stuck me up the bum. And I jumped a mile into the air and he said, "They don't like it up them, sir, they don't like it up them." And I subsequently worked with Clive Dunn again in Pinocchio, because I had a long 30-year career of being a baddie in Panto. And in Pinocchio, I was the wicked coachman, and I think Clive Dunn was Geppetto, the puppet maker. And so I worked with him again. But Jimmy Perry and David Croft were lovely, lovely theatre guys, particularly Jimmy Perry, because he ran Watford for a very long time. And he was so encouraging all the time. But anyway, we recorded it, and at the same time as they were recording Man Hunt, their main episode, and the reason they were doing A Christmas Night with the Stars with Man Hunt was because most of Man Hunt was on film, and they had time to spend on Christmas Night with the Stars. So we did that and recorded it. But they weren't happy with the way Man Hunt was ending. So Jimmy Perry and David Croft came up to me and said, would I come on again as the German, just to say one line at the end to wrap it up? But they said, don't tell the rest of the cast, just come on and do it. So I came on at the technical dress rehearsal. I paced up and down trying to remember this one line. And so I came on and did it. And the cast turned around and looked at me as if I was stark raving bonkers, you see, because they were totally unexpected. And when we actually came to record it, they acted being very surprised, which wasn't quite the same thing. But that's the episode that's always done, because you see all the episodes repeated one after the other. I saw Manhunt for the very first time a few weeks ago when it was on, but I'd never seen it before. But and I have a beloved tape of Christmas Night with the Stars because that was only shown twice, and I was in pantomime in Hull, being the Wicked Yellow Dwarf in Goody Two Shoes, and there were no 125 trains, no motorways, so you had to stay in your pantomime town for Christmas. You didn't go home because you had 2 shows on Christmas Eve and 2 on Boxing Day, so no way could you go home for Christmas. And so we had a little party, you see, on Christmas night, in the middle of which I got up and said, I'm sorry, I've got to go and see myself in Christmas Night with the Stars, and swept out. And so I was able to see it. And then years later, Hugh Laurie and Stephen Fry did a programme called A Christmas Night with the Stars, in which they looked at these sketches from over a period of years. And I managed to see that in the Radio Times, and I got it. But it's got very worn out now. But now I discovered that it's on DVD, and I've been given a present of it, so I'm really thrilled.